My name is Martin Karafilis. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Fishburners. In the past, started a couple of different businesses, grew those startups globally, was able to then move on into this position where I'm able to help startups and founders every single day achieve their goals and grow their businesses and create products that are really changing Australia's landscape, but changing the world as well. Fishburners is Australia's largest and longest standing startup community. So founded in 2011, Fishburners is a non-for-profit organization. We don't have shareholders. Everything that we do is for the startup ecosystem and innovation here in Australia. So that's really important that what we do gives back to founders. And I think the big thing for us is at our core sit at being the most inclusive and accessible startup community. The focus for Australia over the next 10 or 15 years really lies on innovation. And I think we start to see a bit of government support that comes behind that. But more importantly, we see a bunch of entrepreneurs that are moving into the tech space and starting to advance on their product knowledge and able to build really impactful businesses. I started to realize that there's that need for a bit of flexibility in my schedule. The reality is, from a productivity point of view, you're really only as good as what your outputs are. One of the things that I really look at personally is time versus energy management. I think there's a really good realization that things don't necessarily get better unless you actually implement some form of process, procedure, tooling, something that actually enables that. Once upon a time, I would say I'm blocking out these times to complete these tasks and not really assess where my energy levels are or where my energy is going. When I'm sitting in the right sort of energy field, I can actually create an output in a quarter of the time than what I would if I said, hey, I'm just going to block out some time when my energy wasn't going there. So I think it's not to say that if you don't want to do a task, you just don't do it. The reality is if you're sort of looking at where your energy levels are and where you're basing your energy over just where you're basing your time, you'll have a much more productive output. You know, a big thing for me is having the ability to understand what my recovery levels are like and using that same kind of mentality across my work as well. So if you're heavily fatigued from a work aspect, there's only so much sustainability that can occur for you to actually be able to achieve your goals at the end. Especially when you're looking at a CEO's role, a lot of the stuff that you're working on isn't necessarily stuff that has impact within the next hour, within the next day. So it's really important to look at that sustainability element and make sure that you're tracking that and make sure that you're actually understanding, you know, how am I actually achieving this over time? If I'm investing in a company and I'm doing my DD and talking to a founder, there's one question that I ask every single time, and that is, how do you deal with stress? What I found was those founders that gave really distinctive answers, I could see a dramatic difference in how they ran their companies and the effort that they put into their businesses versus those that didn't. It's not so much about what they actually do, but it's that they have a method to deal with that. It means that they have that experience and ability to actually push forward through the hard times. And then I found a bunch of people that just said, I just work harder. And what I found was they would just burn out. It would be harder for them to overcome those tough times than those that actually had a method. Everyone always laughs at this, but I think it's one of the best things that I've ever done. My backpack has absolutely everything in it that I could get on a flight or go anywhere at any given stage. I have my passport, I have a change of clothes, I have my laptop, I have my espresso display. It's the one thing that I can rely on. I can take anywhere. I can get through the work that I need to get through as fast as being in my office. Anything I need for 3 days is the key. So weight distribution is a really important thing for me. It needs to make sure that it can go on my carry-on, or I can walk around 10 kilometers through a day and I feel absolutely fine at the end of the day. Flexibility of use as well. There's no sense carrying around anything that is cumbersome to use, that might take me hours to set up. It needs to be quick and easy to use as well. It's about, yes, managing your time, but also being ready to be able to manage that time effectively. I'm very much so under the impression that any entrepreneur should have the ability to be able to work anywhere. I sort of see that in Fishburners. I see that in the startup ecosystem as well. Not to say people aren't enjoying having a home base and having a dedicated desk, but they like the flexibility.